Hi there again, folks. Martin Lena here from Orange Technology, and in this video, I want to talk to you about things that are beneath you. Things that are beneath you. It's a Saturday when I'm recording this. When it actually gets uploaded, I'm sure it won't be Saturday, but this is a Saturday when I'm recording it. My office is not open on Saturdays generally. We do work 24/7, but that's based on a call out. So there's nobody actually physically in the office normally working on Saturdays or on Sundays. Well, I shouldn't say on Sundays, yes, there is, but on Saturdays, we don't generally have anybody working in the office. So I'm here again on a Saturday morning. It's 10:30 or so in the morning, and I'm cleaning. I'm cleaning the office. So this is something that I want everybody to think about, and it's something that I see, especially with those who have been in the industry, in the technology industry for a longer period of time. Those who are more seasoned, those who have gone through a few roles, business owners, managers, etc., etc. And that's not, and that rolls into having the attitude of not doing things that are beneath you. Okay, and I have a serious issue with this with anybody that has this opinion, with anybody that has this mindset. It's actually really frustrating. I've seen it in employees, thankfully not with employees that I have right now, but I have seen this with other employees that start getting this attitude. And again, it's really frustrating for me. I'm not like that. Um, but a lot of people are, and I see that with a lot of other business owners. I see that with a lot of other professionals in the field. So what do I mean by this? What am I talking about? Well, what I'm talking about is, I'm here on a Saturday morning, 10:30 in the morning, and I'm cleaning the office. I'm vacuuming, dusting, wiping things down, removing any kind of clutter, picking things up off the floor, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people would say, well, Martin, you're a business owner. You seem to be fairly successful. You have all these staff. You have more than one office location. We actually have two office locations in the area that we operate in our capital city here. And why are you spending your Saturday cleaning? Right? Can't you just pay somebody to do that for you? And the answer is yes. Yes, I could. The issue is, is that worth paying for? Right? And do not get me wrong. I'm not saying that janitorial services are not worth paying for. I'm not saying those people don't work hard for their money. None of that. Absolutely not. I fully appreciate that kind of a service business. I fully appreciate what they do. I'm not saying they'll rip people off or anything like that. But what I am saying is, does it make sense for you to do, um, you know, based on your situation? So again, a few videos back, I talked about situational awareness. So this is again one of those things: is are you large enough to need a janitorial service? Right? I mean, for those of you who don't know, about a year ago, I kind of stopped doing videos for a long period of time. It was about 10 or 11 months I wasn't doing videos for. And there was a few reasons for that. And one of the reasons was we acquired our largest competitor here in the industry locally. Okay, so things happened, circumstances were right, and we were able to acquire our largest competitor and take them out of the market. So we are now the largest IT provider in our area. When we did that, that's how we got the second office location. And when we took it over, there was an existing agreement with a janitorial company to come in and do cleaning. I believe it was twice a week, I was told. And that cost was over $1,000 a month to have that done. Now, part of the reason we were able to acquire this competitor was, quite frankly, they were sinking ship anyways. In my opinion, they were completely sinking ship. We had to come in and we had to make some significant changes, especially on the expense side of things. Everything from cutting down phone lines. There were more phone lines than there were staff that were being paid for on a monthly basis. For those of you in the south, that might not be a huge expense, but you have to understand here in the north, phone service cost more. Voice over IP lines are $40 a month. regular POTS landlines are over $60 a month each, and that's just for local service. That does not include long distance. So phone lines, when you start adding them up, they're not that cheap. So there was a lot of things we had to look at that we had to scale back on to reduce the expense, to to once again make that portion of the business, because it's now our business, it's rolled in, but to make that portion of the business viable and profitable again. And one of the things that we looked at was this over $1,000 a month bill for janitorial services. And again, I'm not saying that the company that was doing the janitorial services was doing a bad job. They were not, I didn't see anything where I would say they were doing a bad job, anything like that. I'm not saying it wasn't worth it, but what I am saying is at that point in time, it wasn't affordable for the business to pay someone to come in and clean. If at some point, that we have more than enough money, we're making lots of profit, we're I don't know, netting $1 million a year or whatever, large figures, maybe that makes sense where you farm that out and now you have somebody who comes in and cleans. But when you're in a position when a company is not profitable or you're very close, those are things you have to think about, and that's part of the whole being situationally aware. Does your situation allow you, or does it make sense in the situation you're in to have a third party come and do something like cleaning? Which realistically, I mean, cleaning your office it's not really rocket science. It does take time. It is labor. Time is money, as everybody says. So I'm not saying that there isn't an advantage to having somebody come and do it, but I am saying it's not something you can't do yourself. So again, if your situation doesn't allow you to pay someone to come and do it, if you will start losing money if you pay someone to come and clean your office, then you should do it yourself, right? And this rolls back into the whole, is that something that is beneath you? That's really what I want to talk about in this video, because the business we acquired, the competitor we acquired, that was the attitude. The attitude was, cleaning is beneath me. I am selling high-end systems. I'm selling managed services. I am selling these specialized, high cost, high value services or products. I have to focus on that. I can't focus on something as menial as cleaning. That is beneath me. I am selling the top end IT stuff, right? And that's great. I mean, you could be selling aircraft engines for all I care. It doesn't really matter. But the bottom line is, if you're not making any money, if your profit is in the negative, if you are losing money every month, then you need to look at these things. You need to look at your expenses. You need to look at what you can do yourself, right? Now, just to give you guys an idea, I'm going to take my phone off its stand here, and I'll just quickly show you guys. I have a window in my office, so I'll just show you guys. This is the area. This is the office area. Let's just go outside really quick here. There we go. So there you go. That's the office area. As you can see, got some windows there. There's our workbench. Here's where we do all the intakes for people that walk in, right? Not a very huge spot by any means. Carpet floor, right? Got the desk space and all of that. So, for me, what do I do on a Saturday? I come in, I vacuum, I dust all the desks, I wipe down all the desks with a solution. I have a desk cleaner solution. Grab a microfiber cloth. I wipe down all of the desks. Let me just get this back in the stand here. There we go. I wipe down all of the desks. I clean everything. Sometimes I have to clean glass, windows. Usually they're pretty good, so maybe that happens once a month or so. I take out all the garbages. I take out all the recycling, the cardboard. I put that all up front and near the door so it can be taken out. It's quite frankly, pretty straightforward. It's not really a big deal. And again, this is not something that is complicated. This is not something that requires specialized training. This is just labor. This is just time, right? So I spend probably, I would say, give or take an hour and a half to 2 hours every Saturday cleaning the office. And then on Monday, it's all nice and clean. Everybody comes in, they have clean desks, everything's vacuumed, everybody's ready to go. Now, a lot of people will hate on me for this. They'll say, come on, cleaning, like you're an IT professional and you're cleaning the office, you're vacuuming. But again, this is more of an attitude. In my opinion, I would argue that this has more to do with attitude than it does with the actual task of cleaning, right? Cleaning is beneath me. I won't do it. Okay, so what else won't you do? I mean, if you're selling only really high-end Cisco equipment and some small business walks in that has 3 computers and says, hey, I just need some Wi-Fi, basic network, are you going to say no? You're too small. That's beneath what we do, right? And I have seen this. I have seen professionals do this. I have seen business owners do this, where they will skip on those smaller jobs simply because truth. The profit margin is usually smaller on those smaller jobs, right? Because these are small entities, small organizations, really small businesses. They don't have the money to buy a $10,000 Cisco switch, right? So you're selling more or less small business or high-end consumer grade equipment. I would argue small business is better, but you're selling that stuff, you're deploying it, it's not going to take very long, there's not a huge amount of labor hours involved. So really when you look at it, your profit margin's not going to be gigantic in most circumstances. But that being said, if you can still make a profit doing it, why wouldn't you do it, right? And some people say, well, what if I'm so busy I can't do it? Well, to be honest, again, we are busy all the time. We are a very busy office. We do a lot of managed service. We do residential drop-off. We do IP phone systems, all kinds of stuff, right? We are very busy. Right now, we have some very major projects on the go, a couple cabling projects. We have some large Wi-Fi deployments we have to do. We are very busy. But that doesn't mean you can't find the time to squeeze other things in. For example, for me, 2 hours every single week cleaning the office, right? And again, this is one of those things where, as I've been saying, this is an attitude. This is beneath me. I don't want to do it. And the bottom line is, if you have somebody who's coming in and saying, I need a small router, I need a small switch, I got 3 computers, and you're like, oh, I'm so busy, I can't do it. Really what you're doing is you're making an excuse. Because if somebody walked in and said, I have 300 computers and I need to rebuild the entire network, are you going to say, oh, I'm too busy, I can't do that? Or are you going to say, hey, let's sit down and talk about this and figure out how and when we can do it? That's what you will say, right? Because that's a large enough project that now it's grabbed your attention and you care about it. So bottom line, if you're using the I'm too busy as an excuse, you're just making an excuse for an attitude of that's beneath me, I don't want to do it. Let's be honest, really, like bottom line, that's what it is. And that attitude is not good, because what happens is when you start having that attitude at some point, throughout your business's life, throughout your professional career, whatever, there will be low times. Okay, everything is cyclical. Everything, doesn't matter what it is. Everything is cyclical. You will not always be deploying 1,000 computer networks, and that's all you do. It's just a fact. There will be times you'll be doing smaller stuff. There'll be times you really don't have anything on the go, and there'll be times where you have 3 people who want that 1,000-person network deployed all at the same time. That's just a fact. And based on that, so again, this really comes down to an attitude of this is beneath me, I don't want to do it. And having that attitude is such a poor attitude, right? Anybody who's a business owner who started their business from the ground up when they were the first person working for it and they were doing everything, they will tell you that they did things probably on the cheap. They didn't charge as much as they should have. If you're looking at hourly rates, they will say they took on any work they could possibly find. And then their business grows. They get employees, they get staff, their brand, their name becomes more reputable, et cetera, et cetera. They start doing larger projects. And then again, what happens is they drop off and they don't want to do that smaller stuff anymore. And again, I have such an issue with that because I've seen so many businesses, especially in the IT field, that have failed, that have crested a mount where they were on top and they were the king of the hill, and then the downward slide, and they turned into either nothing, or they closed up shop, or they weren't relevant anymore, and that's it. And I've seen this so many times, and every time when I've actually looked at it, or I've talked to a business owner, or somebody's asked me for advice and they've said, man, what happened? Explain to me what happened here. Every time that's happened and I've looked at it, it's been because of attitude. They got to the point where they were cresting that hill. They were the top. They were the very top of that hill, king of the hill. And they started turning work down and started deciding what they wanted to do versus, realistically looking at every opportunity that was there, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you always have to look at every single opportunity, take every single opportunity. You can turn things down that don't make sense for you. For example, I actually did turn down a job about 4 weeks ago for a client that I didn't think was going to pay. And ironically enough, another company, a competitor of mine, who I'm friendly with, who I talk to regularly, took that job, and they're actually having problems getting paid now. So there are reasons to decline work. I'm not saying you have to accept every single job that comes through the door. Don't get me wrong. But you should not have an attitude where, this is the only stuff I'm doing. I won't do stuff down here no matter what it is. That's a wrong attitude, right? That's not choosing, I'm not going to do this because I don't think I'll get paid, or, I know this person is going to be a problem, or whatever. That's not that. That is a general attitude, and that is bad to have. And so back to speaking with some of these other business owners and professionals that have come and talked to me, what I found is they crested the hill, they were king of the hill, and then they started saying, okay, I've got all this work, I've got all this stuff on the go. I don't want to do these things, right? There's certain things in here I don't want to do. I just don't like doing it. Or that's not the easiest work. I shouldn't say that the majority of the time it's because they didn't want to do that particular work. It's one thing if you don't want to be in a specific field, right? What I found was the majority of the time, people told me I wanted to do the easiest stuff. I wanted to do the highest profit margin stuff that was the easiest to do. And to me, that's laziness, right? I want to be lazy. I want to do the easiest stuff. It doesn't take long to do. It doesn't take a lot of effort, but I get paid the most, right? So, I don't want to minister that server anymore. That sucks. I'm just going to I'm going to charge a monthly fee to manage the switch. Right? Somebody actually told me that once. Somebody actually told me they went to their client and they said, I don't want to manage your server anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore, but I'm going to continue to manage your switch for a monthly fee. And about 2 weeks later, that client came back and said, we don't need you to manage anything. We found somebody else to do it. Right? Because even if your clients don't really know much about technology, for those of us in the field, like, how often do you manage a switch? Unless you are in a large enterprise of 50,000 employees with workstations and whatnot, where people are moving offices all the time or whatever. Maybe that, of course, that scales, right? That scales to the point where maybe you're regularly doing switch work. But let's be honest, for most offices, to put this into perspective, this was a 20-person office. How often in a 20-person office do you do switch work? First of all, do you even need something like a managed switch to start with, right? I would argue for that size office, you could even go with a non-managed switch. Now, I will say that Orange, my company, generally does managed switches. We do smart switches, so ones you can log into that have an interface. just for things like quality of service and being able to look at those kind of things. Also for troubleshooting purposes, it's a lot better if you have a managed switch. It's easy to tell if your switch is failing, if the hardware is failing, if you can log into it and see things. That being said, we certainly wouldn't recommend to a 20-person office to go with a Cisco Catalyst, right? I mean that's way out there that they don't need. So we go with the entry level managed switches. But anyways, that being said, would I be completely opposed to a non-managed switch in a 20-person office? No. I mean, you certainly could get a 24 port non-managed switch, plug all your stuff in, and away you go. That's not really that big of a deal. Again, I would prefer managed switches where I can at least see a few things, but if it's not there, it's not a huge deal. It can still be done easily. But this is one of those things. So this person went to this client and said, okay, I've sold you the Cadillac switch, so I'm going to bill you to manage it. And the client either did or didn't know what was going on or whether they should have that service. But it was an all-in-one service. I will manage your server, I'll manage your switch, I'll manage your firewall, all this stuff. So, okay, it's the whole package deal. It's what I'm paying. I have no problem with that. Anything goes wrong with my computers or anything like that, I call these guys up, they come and fix it. So, but then what happened was this professional said, I'm not going to manage your server anymore because you guys call a lot about that and it's kind of a pain and I don't want to do it, but I will manage your switch. Quite frankly, on the back end, when I was talking to this person, it was because the switch didn't need a whole lot of maintenance or anything. They could do it easily, and they just billed a monthly fee for it, and the profit margin was good on that amount. But what happened was, of course, the client then sits there and goes, oh, he doesn't want to do that. The server us calling about a password reset is beneath that person. Do I really want them working on just the higher end stuff that we don't really know about? They don't want to do password resets. And again, so this attitude gets seen by others as well, right? So it's not just for you. It's not just something you do for yourself and you see it. Other people do see it too, especially when you start applying that attitude to customer facing things. And you may say, well, I'm only doing it, with my own stuff. That's my opinion. That's what I'm going to do internally. Nobody sees that. But honestly, when you start having that attitude and you start applying that attitude, you will start applying it to external things that subconsciously you don't even think about, right? For example, again, another business owner, another person that I was speaking to once. They had lost a fair chunk of clients within a short period of time, and they're trying to figure out why. And they thought it was because they weren't reaching the client fast enough when there was a problem, and that is actually what it was. So I started asking questions, and I started, trying to figure out with this person what the issue was, and primarily actually what had happened was. They had made some changes on the majority of their clients' networks where they were increasing the password complexity requirements and also the password expiry time. So on Windows Server, for those of you who do Windows Server, you can set complexity for domain user accounts. You can set password complexity and you can set expiry. So after say 45 days, the password expires, the user then has to input a new password. And then you can set rules on, are they allowed to use any of the last 5 passwords they had before that, and so forth. So what this person had done is he had made a global change on all his clients' networks where the password complexity went up and the expiry times were turned down. So the passwords expired more frequently. If I remember correctly, it was every 30 days. Okay, so he increased complexity and he reduced the expiry time. So what had happened was, because of this, previously they could have any password they wanted. They could have 1, 2, 3, 4. They could just have the number one character password, whatever. Because he increased complexity and because he decreased the expiry time, there were a lot of people who were forgetting their passwords, right? So they now have this complex password. So somebody would put in a complex password on a Friday because their password expired. they would leave for a long weekend. Monday or Tuesday would be off. Let's say they're gone for 4 days. They come back. They don't remember. It had to be a special symbol, and they, had to have capitals and numbers, and had to be 12 characters long, and all this stuff. And they didn't know what the password was anymore. So what happened from there is they would call the service provider, right? This person that I was speaking to, his business, and they would say, I need a password reset. And what would happen was, and what I found out was, he wasn't getting to these password resets fast enough because the employee that he had, and he only had one employee, the employee that he had was off doing other things, right? So the employee didn't get to doing that password reset for 3 days. So somebody couldn't log in for 3 days. And then eventually, this happened a few times, and then this client got pissed off and fired him and found somebody else. So I said, okay. So this sounds like, capacity problem. Your staffer was busy and couldn't do it. So I said, okay, so your staffer's busy. I'm guessing you're busy too. What were you doing? Were you out doing troubleshooting calls too? Like, is this a situation where you guys are acting like firefighters and you're just going and firefighting problems, you're troubleshooting problems that are immediate, that this needs to be fixed right now? Which, if that's the issue, we can talk about, how do we make the networks more stable? How are you able to do more preventative things so you don't have that firefighting situation, and, your staffer and you can be in the office answering calls, and things like a password reset, that can become the most important firefighting thing you need to go and do. And this is where it became interesting, because he told me, well, I was working on, ordering things, or I was working on marketing. Okay, and I said, all right, so password reset doesn't get done for 3 days. Were you in a marketing seminar? Were you in some kind of a classroom? Were you being taught something? Did you have like a 3-day long meeting with a marketing agency you were paying for and then you couldn't get out of, or what was going on here? And you said, oh no, I was working on it at my desk on my computer. And I said, well, is there a reason you couldn't have done the password reset then? And he said, oh, no, I don't do password resets. I'm working on the marketing stuff. I'm working on getting clients and getting that high-end work. I don't do password resets. I said, okay. So you have one staffer. That staffer is busy doing things. You're in the office. You're in front of a computer. You're in front of the phone. You're working on something that's not client related. You're not fixing something for a client. You are not working on a project for a client. You are working on your own business's marketing, okay? And a client calls and needs some help, simple password reset, not a huge deal, and you deferred it to your staffer who's out, who can't do this for 3 days because you're busy working on the next marketing piece that you're going to do. I said, yeah. I said, well, why didn't you just go and do it? Like, is that not counterintuitive? You are working on marketing to get more clients, but you are losing clients because they're not being serviced fast enough. That you could do because you have the capacity. You're sitting there waiting. And he kind of thought about it for a minute, and he said, well, I guess, but that's a password reset. Why should I have to do a password reset? I'm above that. I'm above that basic work. And again, that's the attitude, right? So this person was working on getting more clients while he was bleeding clients and losing them because he wasn't willing to go and do simple work like a password reset. Keeping in mind that he could bill these clients to do the password reset. He was in a position where he could bill an hourly rate to go do the password reset. So not only is he losing clients, but he's losing money. He is losing revenue and profit to sit there and do something else because he feels that's beneath him and he doesn't want to do it. Right? And I see this so often with technology professionals. They don't want to do that work. They work in the field or they own a business for so long. And again, I mean, here in the technology field, everything runs pretty quick. So, I mean, I'm not even talking to somebody who's been doing it for 30 years. I'm talking about somebody who's been doing it for 12 months. 12 months. And all of a sudden, a bunch of things are beneath them and they don't want to do it anymore. And, someone else does that. I'll let the newbie do that, right? So that's really what you need to think about. If you want to be successful, you have to be willing to not put things beneath you. You have to be willing to do those things. And if that means having to do 100 password resets a week, that's what it means. If it's 1,000, it's 1,000. If literally you wind up going every single week and doing a dozen password resets week in and week out and week in and week out, that's what it is. You have to be willing to do that, and you have to be willing to have that attitude that it is not beneath you, that you can go and do that, and you are willing to, right? If you have that attitude, if you're willing to do that, your chance of success is so much higher, as opposed to, that's beneath me, I'm not doing that. When you start to get above things, you're on that plateau way up there, let me tell you, the way down is really quick. It's really easy. That plateau ledge that you were standing on, it's not very wide. It's very easy to fall off really quick. And then things just don't work out, and all of a sudden, you know, you're hemorrhaging money, things are failing, your business is going under, and you go, I don't understand what happened, right? So that's really something to think about. That's what I want to chat about in this video, is really, you know, not having the attitude that things are beneath you, being willing to get into the trenches, to do that basic work. For me, you know, for example, that's cleaning the office once a week. I do it every single week, and 52 times a year I'm cleaning the office. So that is the attitude. That is how I operate. That is how I expect the people that work for me to operate. And I would argue that's why I am successful, somewhat successful. I mean, you know, that is up to everybody's opinion whether I actually am successful or not. But that is what I expect of everybody, and that is what I expect to happen. So yeah, with that, I will see you guys at the next video.